Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To send me and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. You know what? It is okay, I guess, in this case, for me to start off with the peace greeting, but I'm not going to lie to you all and tell y'all that this is a flattering message. It's not. I'd like for it to be, but it's not. This is what's going on so far right now at this particular time. There are ex-thoughts that are coming in and accepting our faith. And I'm not knocking them as long as they're sincere, as long as they really mean it. That's okay. But I want us to really stop and think about this. If they don't mean it, well, then we're at a loss. If they're just playing around, then yeah, we're at a loss. Who needs that? This is not for play. If you are convinced, then you accept this because you are convinced. I have stated before what the solution is for our people. I wouldn't state this without a good reason. It is the solution. But by the same token, if you have been a loose man or a loose woman before, you may become addicted to that. And you have to be careful about that. Brittany Renner accepted it, and I want her to get full credit for taking it seriously. But recently, somebody else also accepted it, and I think her name is Kae Asakura, and her stage name or screen name is Rae Lil Black. She's a Japanese woman born in Osaka who did dirty movies before, and now she is doing, she's been distancing herself from dirty movies for several years now. But as much as she's distanced herself from these dirty movies, not everybody knows that she's not doing dirty movies anymore. She has apparently a plethora of unreleased recordings, and the companies that own them can continue to release these recordings for a while to come. And therefore, it appears that she's still in business when she's not. So for several years, she's been out of that stuff, and she accepted Islam apparently in September of 2024, and she's become more active, I guess, this Ramadan. And so now this is called into question how Muslims are accepting of guys with high body counts that accept Islam versus women with high body counts that accept. And now the double standards are actually being put up against each other. You have men that are saying, well, when Andrew Tate accepted, we needed that because we needed that reinjection of masculinity amongst the Muslims. And you had others who sat up and said, look, if Andrew Tate is not needed, he's not a necessity to Islam, let alone to God. And if he accepts, we'll leave. And they were on the opposite end of the spectrum, and everybody missed something. They all missed something. God does not need Tate. We do not need Tate. Tate needs God, and he needs to submit the same way we all do. And Tate has since then come into Islam, and he's shot back out. He did not take time to learn his religion. He did not take care about what he said. And he has a former employee that came out and said he told me he accepted this because the sheikhs in Abu Dhabi would have felt better about doing business with him. So this means he faked who he was and what he believed in for some money. Therefore, I must say to you that, this is low down and we don't have time for that. I don't think anybody really has time for this. So I sit up and I tell you guys that we got these double standards now for reasons that reasons of necessity. And here's why I say that. I already told you what they said when Tate came in. the extremes. Now, there were people in the middle ground that said he comes in with the same rules as the rest of us. He gets the same fair chance as the rest of us. If he does not abide by the rules, or if he says something that takes him out of the fold of Islam, then we're either going to call him a wrongdoer, a corrupt Muslim, or a non-Muslim. There were people in the middle. There are people in the middle when Brittany Renner has accepted. And there are people that are coming in the middle when Kae Asakura or Rae Lil Black has accepted. And I'm going to tell you, I heard her interview. Her interview was given in fairly good English. It has errors in it, which is to be expected. But Kae Asakura sat up and said, she did not mention her past per se. She said that she accepted because when she went on a trip to Indonesia and then to Malaysia, the people were just so kind that she wondered what they believed in. And she researched it and found it. And she said, yeah, I can believe this. And she did. Therefore, she accepted. And I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to treat the two of them the same. I'm not going to treat Brittany Renner the same as I am Kae Asakura because of the distance in between. And maybe I'm wrong, but while accepting that both of them have accepted, and I have not heard of Brittany Renner doing or saying anything that takes her out of the fold of Islam since then. And evidence has been that she has taken it more and more and more seriously since she accepted it. I give her full credit. I give Kae Asakura even more credit because Brittany had to run through her 304 phase, and when she could no longer run that anymore, when it had run its course, and early and prematurely, and because of decisions she made, there you go. Now she can't be one anymore. Men won't even go over just to smash. Then she turned. She'd had the void all her life, but she had to go through this phase before she could accept. And I had to look at her side eye like, really, are you for real? Are you serious? And then she showed over time that she's serious. But she's still going to stay in PJ Washington's pockets for that child support. Kae Asakura had been done with that dirty business for years. At least that's what AI says. And then she went on a regular trip, and then she said, okay, you know what? I see what they believe in, and I can believe it. She walked out on her own 304 phase. It didn't walk out on her. It didn't run out on her. These are two different things. And I mention this because I also want to tell you young brothers, I've told y'all before what the solution is. I don't regret telling you what the solution is. I believe that. I also want you guys to know that this solution, unfortunately, comes with something that you might need not built in. And that sounds like an oxymoron. But understand, knowing your rights is a part of the religion. So it's actually built in, but it's not always included or explained or pointed out to you. That's what it is. See, gentlemen, when you come in and you accept like Kae Asakura or Brittany Renner did, not like Andrew Tate because he was playing from what his employees said and from what he later showed. But when you come in and you accept this, you must know that these ladies are coming in and they're going to have an army of women that are even married and have not gone through 3 or 4 phases, telling them what all they deserve and what they're entitled to and their rights and men's responsibilities to them. When you go in, nobody wants you to know what your rights are or what her responsibilities are to you or any of that stuff. When you come in and you accept right off the bat, what they're thinking is, hey, you know what? you need to fix and do this and that. And you come in with all these you have tos and no rights. You're never done paying. And they're okay with that. You're never done earning, and they're okay with that. It's a big joke to them. So, as far as they're concerned, you owe it to the population of Muslims to marry the likes of the Brittany Renners and the likes of the Kae Asakuras. That's what you owe. You must do that. Unless that's what you want to do. And if that's what you want to do, especially if you're someone who has a body count higher than theirs, which is very unlikely, therefore meaning that you don't have to step down after being chaste to marry them because you're in the same boat, then they want to look at you and say, well, why can't you just take care of them without having to marry them? So whatever you want, they don't want. And that is, I guess what I'm getting at is that when you accept, you have to know and remember that the gender war is still there. The gender war being fought is for them and it works in their favor. And they're going to be all right. Somebody's going to believe that he has to wife up Kae Asakura if she chooses to marry. And then he may do that. And you know what? She may have been through enough to where she decides, you know what? I'm not going to mistreat this guy. And then somebody has to, likewise, somebody has to be convinced, and probably will be convinced, that he must wife up Brittany Renner if she decides that that's what she wants. There'll be somebody that believes he's got to do that. And I'll be honest with you about this. Culturally speaking, I think that both of them have very low chance of being able to truly and permanently pair bond and stay with one husband. But I think Brittany Renner may have the harder time doing that because of where she was raised. In Japan, you can go into that industry. In the States, you're encouraged to. In Japan, they might be demanding of men. In the States, they are encouraged to dislike men and be demanding. In Japan, they're encouraged to seek to get a lot out of men, but also to give back. In the States, they are encouraged to take and not give, and to make these decisions based on what the men don't like. That's what happens there. And that's the difference. And that's why I'm not treating them the same. That's why I'm not telling you that you must. They have the same rights. But your expectations out of them, should they even marry, are not the same. And I can understand why, and I don't have a leg to stand on to blame either one of you. But I do want to tell you this, guys. Most of you have not been through the same body counts. Most of you haven't done what they've done. And I don't want anybody backing you to a corner and telling you that if you're really serious about worshiping God, you'll do exactly whatever the hell it is you don't want to do regarding these women. That you'll marry them if what you don't want to do is marry them, or that you'll take care of them without marrying them if what you don't want to do is take care of them without marrying them. And I don't want you marrying them if you don't have the similar body count. I don't get to choose whether or not you marry them, but I wouldn't advise you to do it. I don't want that to be the case. But understand that whatever you want and whatever you don't want are going to be the determinants of whatever they withhold and whatever they pressure. Whatever they withhold from you and whatever they pressure you to do. And whatever they're going to pressure Renner to do. Renner is going to be pressured by Muslim women if they can stand to be seen out in public with her. They're going to pressure her to pick and choose what to do based on what the men don't want, because that's who they are. They have a disdain in the West for us, much the same way that the non-Muslim women do. So know that when you come into this, they're going to have an army of peers and colleagues helping them look out for their rights, especially Renner. Many of the men are not even going to know what rights to tell you to look out for. The rights that you do have, they're going to say, well, this is what they're going to tell you what it doesn't mean that you have those rights. The men will. The rights that these women have are going to come with advice from these women telling them what it means that we're supposed to do. So the solution is the solution, but you must understand that that does not mean that when you come in, somebody gets to come up and tell you that they found somebody for you to marry, and it's a convert just like you, but you don't have a right to decline. Or that if you do, you're wrong because if you do decline, you're wrong because what if somebody declines you? I also want you gentlemen to know that there are going to be people who are going to tell Brittany's and the Kae Asakuras, if that man don't know what you did before, you don't tell him. Now, they may be right. I don't know what the rules are about a woman not telling a man what she did before she became Muslim. I don't know what those rules are, but these women don't know either. They're going to make it up as they go along. And they know mother cuss word well that these women are going to have a hard time staying with a man that's got a lesser body count than themselves. But they still going to tell these women, girl, they're going to pull a Shira 7, but they Muslim. Despite the fact that Shira 7 practices witchcraft, you got some Muslim women that listen to her. You got to be prepared, gentlemen. When you do accept, you got to know that in the West, you are going to be hit up by people trying to tell you that you would be a good match for a woman. And you got to wonder why the hell they're looking for somebody for her. Because they're not in you. They don't have your best interest at heart. So I want you guys to be ready. Those of you that do, because Ramadan is that month when many people are stopping and they're thinking about it. That's the month we really can't. That's the month where people come in to see us more and say, listen, I'm interested in joining. Where do I sign up? How do I sign up? It's normally Ramadan. And so as some of you are thinking about and considering it this year during Ramadan, I want you to understand that if you do come in, hey, welcome with open arms. Everybody gets the same chances and opportunities. Just to understand that when it comes to that part of life, the Muslim women of the West are not going to be better. They could be. They have a chance to be. They have the instructions to be. But as AC Accountable Commentaries talked about regarding good women just in general in the West, not being available, not being outside and being hard to discover and meet. And he's right, they are. Know also that amongst the Muslims, it's even harder. It's even more difficult. And ain't nobody gonna look out for your interest. Ain't nobody even really that concerned with telling you the truth. Ain't nobody gonna really even feel comfortable enough pulling you off to the side and saying, listen, man, that woman was doing some stuff before she became Muslim. She's Muslim now, and that's great and that's fine. But a lot of dudes ain't gonna want to marry her if they know this, and these women are gonna try to hide that from you. So I'm letting you know, not because I have anything against the lady, but because you got a right to know when they're gonna hide this. And see, last thing I'm gonna tell you is that if some of you guys say, well, look, you really can't hold that against her. Holding it against her is different from not marrying her because of it. And here's how you'll know, and here's how you can prove it. Imagine you get arrested for a crime you never committed. You get locked up in county. You get locked up with a predator, booty bandit. He violates you. You never consented, you never agreed, you never did anything to put yourself in that situation. You fight, you just don't win. You're traumatized. Years later, you're Muslim and you're looking to marry, but you know what? You're in discussion and you want to let her know that you got one trauma. And that's why certain things ain't going to be funny. And you tell her that you've been exonerated, you have been proven innocent later, or you've since you passed the trial, you beat the charges because you ain't do nothing. You tell her this. But she turns around and you let her know, I didn't do none of that. But she's looking at you like, well, I don't think I want to marry no more. And she doesn't tell anybody, but then you move on, you talk to another lady and her wali, and you tell her. And she declines, and you talk to someone else, and she declines. And they don't tell anyone, but one day you talk to a lady and her wali, you decide you're not going to tell about this. After all, you didn't do anything wrong. You just went through something, so you don't tell her anything at all. She agrees, y'all set a date. You know what's going to happen? If the women that you did discuss marriage with before that declined because of the trauma, find out that you have a date to get married, they're going to come to this lady and they're going to say to her, listen, did you know that he might be a booty bandit? I mean, he told us what happened to him. Maybe he's telling the truth, girl, maybe not. But, somebody got that with him while he was locked up in county. They're going to tell her, girl, you got a right to know. But when it comes down to somebody, even though you didn't choose this, but when it comes down to someone, almost the opposite, identical scenario, except almost the mirror image, except she chose to do this and racked up a body count voluntarily. They're going to act like you ain't supposed to know. And if you find out and call the wedding off, then you wrong because you wasn't supposed to know no way. That's how they go. These same broads are going to act like this. Gentlemen, you got to know that ain't nobody out there looking out for you. Not when it comes to that. Not even amongst the Muslims in the West. And that's why we're going to have these double standards that we have. And why we ain't got to look at everybody always the same all the time. The rules are the same, but there are things that they're going to do differently, even with the rules being the same. And that's when you begin to start applying these double standards because they're applying them to you. You ain't even got to be guilty. Just anything that can make the most shallow-minded, dumb person question your manhood is enough for any attractive woman to decide she ain't going to marry you. And ain't going to let nobody else do it either. But you turn around and decide that you're not going to spend all your money on someone that probably ain't going to be able to pair bond with you. Can't tolerate polygyny, but ain't going to want to give you your marital rights, your conjugal rights. And you're not going to make yourself that miserable. And these same broads are going to have a whole lot of stuff to talk about you and what kind of man you ain't. So I want you to keep that in mind. Do not be brainwashed. Don't fall victim to that way of thinking. When these ladies accept like that, you can wish them well. You're probably never going to meet them, but you wish them well. When women you do see at your local masjid accept and they join the ranks, you wish them well from a distance and you don't get involved other than ways that can help. Because their pasts are questionable and they ain't going to tell you the truth about their past if their past is bad. If the body count ain't a problem, they feel like don't nobody deserve them. And if it is a problem, they feel like it shouldn't be. The gender war is still amongst the Muslims in the West. I wish it wasn't, but it is. Be ready for that. And it is perfectly okay to look at someone like Kae Asakura, ain't no part of us. She just has black in her stage name or screen name or whatever. And to still have more confidence in her in general than you do in Brittany Renner, who's half us and ain't playing around with it from what I've understood. You ain't wrong for that, because what have we looked at and what have we seen? Thank you for listening. As always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Black Out, Assalamu Alaikum, Black Heterosexual, Non-Select Male Power because they don't like it, Black Patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase Jet Black's also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.